And welcome back to the Sports Roundup here at Irie on the Square. And we just had Gary Darby join us, talk a little Crosstown Classic between the Oxford Chargers going over to Lafayette this week and getting ready for that. Talk some Ole Miss football. And we're going to go right back to some high school football and talk about a couple of weeks ago we did our top 10 and we had South Panola number 1, Lafayette number 2, and I think we had Madison Central right in there at number 3 or number 4 somewhere. And if I'm not mistaken, guys, there's only one of those teams that are undefeated.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the Lafayette Commodores, the team that I picked. And I said it was the best team in the state, and I still believe that. And not because South Panola lost to Hoover. Obviously, that was a big game on ESPN. You travel on the road, you go to another state, a lot of things can happen. But I think the one thing that I've always said about Lafayette that I believe is good is they're not a one-dimensional team on offense, for one. They play great defense. They go 22 guys deep. They don't play guys both ways. And to me, that's why they're the best team in the state. You got Jeremy Liggins at quarterback. You got DeMarcus Dennis. You got Buford. You got a lot of weapons. You got a very experienced offensive line. And in the last 3 years, we haven't seen anybody that can really – has really given Lafayette a problem other than the one young man from South Mississippi that threw the ball all over.
One thing you did not just talk about right there was probably one of the best weapons on Lafayette's team, and that's the kicker. How many times Friday night did we see touchbacks, and teams can't run the ball back on you if you're kicking it in the end zone?
Absolutely, and I would say so far this season, Tyler Jackson's probably kicked 80 to 85% of his kickoffs, and that's a big weapon, especially if you're playing. If Lafayette was to go to South Panola or vice versa, when you get athletes like South Panola has on punts, kickoffs, special teams, that's where teams like that can beat you. But if you got a kicker that kicks the ball in the end zone every time, or even when he was punting the football, he's a dual threat kicker. He kicked it inside the 10-yard line 2 times. I mean, those have a big effect. That's another reason. All around, Lafayette is very strong.
I'm not gonna give it to them right now. I mean, I agree they are strong. We had them as number 2, and the number 1 team got beat. Even though it was an out-of-state team, usually when you get beat, when you get beat, when you drop down the pole. So I'm gonna say that Lafayette right now is number 1. But when you look at the competition, you look at these teams play, I don't think Lafayette's been tested. Tupelo hadn't shown anything in the last 5-6 years. Then they played Greenwood. They hadn't been tested this year. I'm gonna reserve mine until they go to Evangel and see how that comes out. But I'm going to say they are the number 1 team in the state right now because of the fact that they're undefeated. They were number 2, and I just believe that if you're number 2 and the number 1 team get beat, where else can you go?
Well, Chick, you're talking about going on the road like that, former coach. How hard is it? I don't know if you guys ever played out of state or not, but how hard is it to get, week after week knowing that you've got a chance to be the number 1 team? How hard is it to get pumped up for that?
Are you talking about South Panola or Lafayette? Well, for Lafayette, I mean, Lafayette's got a great football team. They're going to go undefeated this year. I believe that. And going to Louisiana will be a test for them, but at the same time, Lafayette, very talented 4A football team. But also, I want to say this, and I'm a Lafayette Commodore all the way. My daughter's a cheerleader out there. I'm for them. But they're 4A for a reason. They're 4A because they don't have the players that South Panola has. They don't have the numbers in school. And anytime you step up in classification, a great 3A school, great 4A school is not going to beat a great 6A school. That's just about bottom line. That's the reason we don't have a grand slam in football. That's why we don't have a grand slam in basketball.
I definitely understand that. I think, I'm not saying that they would go over there and beat South Panola tomorrow if they played them, but I think Lafayette is earning a little bit more respect from some folks, and the way they battled Tupelo and Greenwood. Greenwood came out and had their opportunities. Keith will tell you they had their opportunities at the beginning of the game, but a deflected pass return for a touchdown, they did, and boom, man, they were gone.
Well, I had some guys that played for Northwest on the national championship junior college team, and at that time, some people would say Northwest could beat Ole Miss. They can't beat Ole Miss. I mean, that just ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, but I think as we is a lot of people around here that don't get to watch South Panola play a lot. Hoover was a good team. I'm not going to take anything away from them. We've talked about Alabama, Mississippi. We've talked about Alabama versus Ole Miss. I mean, there is a little talent difference. But you got to say, as a Mississippi fan, for somebody that was cheering for South Panola, which I was, it's very disappointing to watch a team that's built up that much to go over there and watch a quarterback who couldn't even throw a ball in the flat.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, they became so one-dimensional. It was – I almost felt sorry for them.
Well, how many state championships has South Panola won? They've won 8.
They won 8.
But, Fred, 8 out
of the last 9.
They would have had one more if they could have kicked the extra point.
Against Meridian that year.
Right. I mean, the thing is, you can't – at that level, you can't be one-dimensional offensively. You can't depend on a great defense or just a running game on offense. It's got to be a complete – package if you're going to beat a team like Hoover, Alabama. But Fred made the point when we were talking about it a while ago. If the quarterbacks had been reversed, South Panola would have beat Hoover by 3 touchdowns.
I'm not going to say that you can't win one-dimensional because they've been doing it for 7 or 8 years. I mean, obviously they just don't have that smash back that they've always had, the person that can carry the mail. And they use Connor. Connor is probably one of the most talented players in this region, and count a few states. But when you know he's going to get the ball and you can stack the box against him, he's not going to be as successful. But you can get him out in open field, somebody can get him the ball, or you run some play action pass type thing. You don't need a quarterback that can throw that well, but you got to have a game plan. And I think one of the things that we have got to realize about South Panola this year, they got a new offensive coordinator in there. And then a lot of times when you got new staff in that don't know the kids, I mean, I can see if somebody was, from the staff that's been there for a while, but they brought in a young man from a junior college that coached running back, and I just don't think that offensive plan has gelled. So I think they're going to adjust, though. And a great team like that that's lost 2 games, well, they're saying they had won 119 out of 121. So they lost 3 games. Gosh, man, we can't be saying anything too bad about that team.
No, and I'm not.
I would take that record.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us. I mean, it's no disrespect to South Panola. I think it's more respect to say Lafayette. But I mean, Lafayette's won 32 of their last 33. They've been on a good run themselves, and I think that difference is where DeMarcus Dennis is a great football player. I say it every Friday night. You got great athletes over at South Panola. I mean, both ways you got great athletes. I think the difference is it's the same difference we saw in Hoover. I think Jeremy Liggins being able to throw the football is the difference, and why Lafayette is better this year than South Panola.
Well, let's take a look at another one of the teams that we talked about that. I mean, I'm shocked Madison Central 0-2 to start the season.
Well,
they played really probably the toughest schedule, I think, of the first 2 games of anybody in the state. They start out with Olive Branch. Olive Branch is always up top. They battle South Panola every year. And then this weekend they got beat 16-14 by Starkville. Starkville got Jamie Mitchell. And everywhere Jamie has been, Jamie will develop a program. You just give him a little time. And, Starkville dropped down to 5A. I wanted to see Starkville stay up to 6A because I thought that at some point they were going to be the team that's going to challenge South Panola on a consistent basis. So when you look at Jamie Mitchell coach team, Jamie's going to put them on the field. The kids going to be ready to play, and they're going to play hard for them. So in all fairness to Madison Central, they probably still in the top 20, but, they played a tough schedule.
Well, and the thing is, Bobby's whole purpose in having that schedule is when they're 9 division games, you want to play teams that are going to help you get ready for the playoffs. And the other thing about playing Olive Branch, about playing Starkville, when they get in the playoffs, they'll end up having to play South Panola or Olive Branch. They'll be ready to play them.
Do you think this year could be the year that Olive Branch gets over the hurdle at South Panola?
No.
Still don't think so?
No, but because, South Panola's a team that they played Hoover, they played West Point. They're a young team. They're going to continue to get better. If Olive Branch does beat them in the regular season, they'll still have to beat them again in the playoffs.
Well, South Panola has been successful because of great athletes up to this point. They're going to be successful this year because of great coaching. That's what it's going to take. It's going to take great coaching, making good adjustments, because now I think the problem they had is that game was nationally televised. You got everybody knowing that we've got our top team in the state, actually one ranked in the top 20 in the country. I still don't understand when you're ending the season number 1 and then you come back and you win your first game, somehow you get dropped to number 16. I never understood that, but they were number 16, but everybody got a chance to see them, and they putting together their game plan of how we can beat this team. So it's going to be up to the coaching now to make the adjustment, and we're going to see how great South Panola really is.
Yeah, I think the fair question is across the panel. South Panola going to win the state championship?
Yep.
Ronnie?
I'm going to reserve judgment on that for a while.
Hey, I'm going to tell you, until somebody beat them, they are the state championship. They are the state champion.
All right, Fred, I'm not afraid. I'm going to go out on the line. They're not going to win the state championship this year.
Well, Keith, here's what I want to say about that. Do I think they're going to win the state championship? I don't know, but I do know this. They've got a great coaching staff over there. They're going to win every game they can. Now they didn't have a better team than Hoover, Alabama. But in Mississippi, they had one that was better than West Point. And in my mind, the defending 5A champions 2 years running, West Point, mighty good football team.
But, you know, Keith went out on the line. He always go out on the line because he don't realize he got a real short line. And so next week, after they blow somebody out, he'll be saying, well, they'll win the state championship. So he be back and forth, and I'm okay with that.
I haven't been back and forth the whole year. I put Lafayette 1 because I think all of us on this panel, and some of us based on the competition, we believe it's easy to say Lafayette's going to win the state championship right now based on what we know today. We can't say that about South Panola. Where in years past, last year, everyone on this panel would have said South Panola's going to win hands down.
Well, I think the difference is South Panola has to improve as a team. For Lafayette to get beat, Lafayette's going to have to help somebody beat them. They're going to have to fumble 4 or 5 times like Oxford did against Grenada. They're going to have to do some things to help them, or they're going to have, if they have injuries. The whole team changes now if one player goes down. Instead of being the odds-on favorite to win the state championship, we wouldn't pick them to win this Friday night, or I wouldn't.
I agree with that.
Let me ask you this. As a former coach, and you guys had the undefeated season, won the state championship, and you always hear, well, you know, it's good to get beat. I'm too competitive. I don't want to get beat. But you take a loss like this for South Panola. Is it like a wake-up call to them? Do they say, hey, you know we can be beat now. We've got to bring our A game?
No, because I'm going to tell you the unique thing about South Panola from watching them for the last 18 years, they always work. Like they play with that fear of getting beat every Friday night. And Fred, you called a lot of their games over the year. And it don't make any difference who they play. They play like they're scared they're going to get beat.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I also think that the one thing that South Panola has done in years past, they intimidate kids when they go out on the field. Kids get nervous.
For sure.
A lot like Tiger Woods used to do, which he doesn't do anymore. Let's get that clear. South Panola may have lost a little bit of edge with kids getting to watch Hoover play them on TV. That's just from my point of view.
Yeah, but they can also look around. They ain't got no kids like Hoover's got. If they look around on the bus with them when they go to South Panola, they don't have those kind of kids with them. And I will say this, going back to the South Panola Lafayette deal, Lafayette has some great players, but they don't have great players in every position. And there wasn't a kid playing for Hoover the other day that won't play college football if he don't want to. I mean, if he wants to play, he's going to have an opportunity to play college football. They recruit all of Birmingham. Birmingham's a big town.
That's a big difference when you can get those kind of kids to come to your school. I know a lot of folks used to say that about South Panola that they recruited, but, they recruited in Panola County maybe, and that was about it.
Well, there's a mixed kid playing right tackle for him. He grew up in Water Valley until he played football in the 7th grade. And I don't know if they recruited him, but he moved to Batesville in the 8th grade.
They don't do that over there in Panola County, do they, Fred?
No, if that's the case, North Panola will be doing something because I'll be helping them.
Well, and you take a look at some of the other teams. You talked about Aberdeen, and
they were one of my picks and one of my surprises. And some of us, what Chick said, you take a 3A school, they go play a 6A school in Columbus, and they get beat.
They're a great 3A team, and I don't think Columbus is a great 6A team. middle of the road at
Yeah.
best, and the numbers catch up with you. And I say that, you know, I played Lafayette every year I was head coach that we could, and in the end, you better have a better team of those 14, 15 kids that you play when you're playing against 35 on Friday night. And I say that at a 3A school, you're going to have 15 to 20 kids that play on Friday night when it matters. And if a 4A school is going to have 35, a 6A school is going to have 50.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's when Tupelo came out, when the Commodores were getting ready to play them, man. They kept coming and coming and coming. They had a lot of kids on that team. That's a big 6A school, so and that's why they are.